there's something about a harvested field, and especially the smell of one early in the morning, just is unbeatable. Also, nothing like the great smell of sheep first thing in the morning. Oh, back to the video. So, unless you've been living under a stone for the last couple of years, you will have noticed that the world has changed, and not for the better. And there'll be a lot of people, I suppose. I mean, this channel is the thinking tree, so it's about contemplating things, thinking about things, normally sort of consciousness related or whatever. But the world has changed, and not for the better. And I too, like many, in the beginning sort of observed these changes, which were very well, let's say, disguised under the hat of the virus of unknown origin. And so it was a convenient sort of diversion away from other things. But then you started noticing things going on, and maybe I probably was and am, or was, a little late to the game. You know, plenty of people have been seeing lots of things that I haven't seen for going on for long time before. But eventually sort of realise, what's this new thing going on here? What's this for? And then you look to another country and you go, oh, and they're doing the same. Oh, and there, and they are, and so you'd sort of stand back to take a wider view of things, and then you realise this is going on everywhere, and it's not just that one thing. Let's take the subject of mass immigration, but other things like clamping down on people's freedoms and liberties, the spread of wokeism, and the results, well, critical race theory, which becomes wokeism, which becomes the assault on free speech, and things suddenly being called hate speech, people suddenly being asked, can you define the word woman for me, please? And people going, it's somebody who identifies as a woman. Things like this, where you know, in the beginning I just thought, Americans. And then I think British, and now it's Germans, and so on. So, well, I think it's Musk, isn't it, who calls it the woke mind virus, and he's correct. But it's not just a woke mind virus. That's just, I think, a symptom of something else. As with mass migration, as with clamping down on hate speech, as, you know, the 1980, the Orwellian 1984 that we're going through and experiencing. All of these things are symptoms for me of, and they're all, I mean, like, there will be people who say, you're a conspiracy theorist, and I will answer, what's the difference between a conspiracy and truth? About 6 months. Conspiracy theorist, but I think you've got to be pretty ignorant or stupid to, by now, not be able to add one and one together and come up with two. You only have to look at the world and see how this has all of the hallmarks of being coordinated, or at least, if not coordinated, because I don't ever can trust governments to be that capable and competent to organise something like this. So it's more likely that they've sort of latched onto something that was making a wave anyway, and now they're riding the wave and abusing that thing. But they're definitely abusing everything they can. We will end up with digital currencies because they've all got the same, you know, flea in their ear about digital currencies. Again, in order to clamp down, they'll make um, they'll make people as transparent as possible. They will know everything about you. This is all of these phones and everything else that we have make that possible, and they will surveil you in every single corner of your life, everything. If not literally watch you with cameras, then they'll be watching where your phone's going and everything else. And so it's an extremely scary time, and it's not just one government. The EU is absolutely awful for this. This is why I think the EU should be disbanded. Not Europe. Europe is fantastic, but the EU in this form that it's in is just pure evil. And people who want to rejoin in Britain the EU, you have no idea. You have no idea. Do not do it. Keep your sovereignty. It's the best thing that you could have done. So we see that this is, if not coordinated, then they're all riding the same wave, and they're desperate to control the people as much as possible in every single respect, to curtail every bit of freedom, to add a new law here and a new law there in sort of, you know, sliced tactic. The tactic of taking one slice first and then another little slice and then another little slice and so on and so forth until everything is gone. So that you won't be able to drive the car that you want to, you won't be able to watch the channels that you want to on TV or online, you won't be able to post what you want to online. You have to, your opinions might be policed. You won't be able to burn wood, you won't be able to walk like this, do that, and so on. Your life will be gradually, the prison of your life will be just tightened ever so slightly. It reminds me a bit of a Michael Moorcock. I think it might have been an Elric novel, don't know, because they all sort of interweave in Michael Moorcock, where one of the weapons of the great sorcerers was, I don't know if it was Elric himself, there was an army and they sort of spread, they create this magic ring around the army, and the magic ring sort of glows into a fleshy wall, a bit like a foreskin. And the foreskin just sort of grows and grows and grows and just gets gradually tighter bit by bit, and the army can't get out, so they're just gradually crushed. That's what's happening to us. I genuinely think that's what's happening, and it's governments, whether they're working together under the World Economic Forum or not, they are coordinating this, obviously, because the same laws appear in different countries that have initially nothing to do with each other. So it's not just like all just European countries, but in Britain or in America, Canada, look at Justin Trudeau. It's being abused and used everywhere. It's being implemented everywhere. Until they get to the position where, I mean, it's difficult to say what the end game is. They just want, it's like a Bond villain. Just to control the world, Mr. Bond, to control the world. Is that it? Just to control the world? Or is there a reason for doing that? Is it to relieve the debt by getting every single penny out of every single person they can? Is it to create mass immigration so that they can keep the machinery running with the slaves that they'll import, replacing their own population so they'll be all right? I have no idea what the end game is, what their plan is, but there seems to be a plan, and it's obvious to the dumbest and the dumbest and the blindest of people that this is going on. And I really don't know. In a way, and for many reasons, I feel sort of immune to it all, I suppose, in a way. I feel like I'm sort of an older chap and I don't really care anymore. And my philosophy is such that death doesn't really worry me that much. But I think about my child and the kids to come and what the world would be like for them, and I just think, no. Just no. And so I have no great advice. It's at times it's terribly depressing and overwhelming, and you feel completely powerless, like there's nothing you can do. This is what's going to happen. But just as with, I think that's maybe a bit like sort of the Bitcoin phenomena of FUD and FOMO, that when the market goes down, there's, fear and anxiety and, oh, why did I buy this crap in the first place? Oh my God, I've lost, and people start drawing their Bitcoin out. But then when the market goes shooting up to a new all-time high, there's FOMO, the fear of missing out, and people going, oh, should have joined this, oh, why didn't I join it? Same kind of thing. Sometimes you get just utterly depressed by the whole thing and think, what the hell have I done? There's no chance, no way of solving this. And then sometimes you think, no, this is we can do something about this. So those trends you have to watch out for those trends. But in all, because I have no advice about this at all, I'm not going to give you some little soundbite at the end. So, and that's why take some nettles, right? Stick them in your nose. It's not going to happen. I don't have any great advice. It seems to me that the logical conclusion of this is no. Just no. In whatever way you can, you have to take part in resisting this. Resistance is not a freedom, as I wrote in a song. I think it might have been Buy the Lies, Sell Your Freedom, linked here. Resistance is not a freedom, it's an obligation. And in this case, resistance is an obligation. You are obliged, for the sake of the rest of humanity and their freedoms, all the children to come, to say to these people, no. They say they are obliged to save the world from climate change. Now, I don't know about climate change. I'm sort of, I'm there with sort of climate change happening. I'm lost my trust in experts and science a great deal because they ruined it for themselves. I love science and brilliant, but I've lost a lot of trust in science, and not science itself, but scientists and experts, because they lie. So I wouldn't put it past them with government money and with government force to lie about anything. So they'll say, yes, but we're doing this for the good of humanity because we're trying to save the world. And I say, no, you're not. You're doing this for good of yourselves, and you're trying to line your pockets. You're trying to line your pockets, and you're trying to gain power over people. And it's sickening and it's disgusting. And every single one of us is obliged to resist in any form you can. Be it making this stupid video on YouTube that no one's going to watch. Okay. Writing songs that no one listens to. Okay. I don't care. You have to do something. Speak to people. Because when I look around my circle of the people around me, I notice that, okay, there's a lot of people who are au fait with all of this, and I just go, did you see so? And they go, yeah. And they know immediately. But there's an awful lot of people in my daily life who've just got no clue. No clue about, no clue about just things about the virus, for example, and what's come out in Germany through the Robert Koch Institute files, that the whole thing was a scam. The government implemented things that were not necessary, and there was no expert advice for. In fact, there was expert advice against. And people were just like, oh, I didn't know about that. They didn't know about that, so they definitely don't know about the wider scope of things, about what's going on generally everywhere. But everybody feels that there's something wrong. Yeah, there are people with no idea about the what's going on with mass migration, right, and how much it's going on. But they're gradually starting to feel it. They're gradually starting to see things where they think, that's a bit odd. That never used to be like this in this country. It used to be different. Yes, it did. Your country's changing. And so it's, like I say, it's this sort of slice by slice tactic, what they call the salami tactic, where things are just introduced bit by bit by bit. As Jean-Claude Juncker in the EU said, there's a quote online about him saying, what we do is we introduce something without telling people. We just make a new law and introduce it and see if anyone complains. And if no one complains, it becomes the law. That's what they do. And if people complain, they'll just take it away, change it a little bit, put it back in again. This is what they do. They just introduce things bit by bit and see if you complain. Nope, no one's complaining, fine. Going to lock you down for a couple of years. You're going to have to stay in your house. Oh, okay. Brilliant. Fantastic. They don't mind doing that. Note to self. This is what I mean. It's absolutely, utterly disgusting. Your freedoms are being taken away. And every single person has the obligation, every single person who understands this, those who can't do anything about it, but everybody else is obliged to resist in some way, shape or form. If you tolerate this, then your children will be next. Have a lovely Sunday. Take care, be safe, and resist.